Energy Boutique with your energy forecast for Thursday, July 10th. So welcome to the full moon in Capricorn day. Of course, the moon is going to be building towards the peak of this Capricorn energy until 4:37 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Interestingly enough, we have this full moon in Capricorn popping off at 18 degrees, 15 minutes of Capricorn energy, and then immediately going void, of course. We have been having some weird ass patterns when it comes to the moon being void for some extremely long windows of time over these last couple of weeks. And of course, that just means that we have a lot of emotional refinement and realignment that needs to be done. So as we build towards this peak intensity, suddenly we hit that full explosion, that full releasing point with this full moon in Capricorn. And then the moon is going to go void, of course, and we're going to have to sit with it. We're going to have to float with it. There's going to be a lot of different perspectives that kind of get triggered and activated over the course of this next day or two in order for us to really put a different lens, a different twist, a different spin on our situation and circumstances so that we can fully realize where it is that we are essentially moving away from certain timelines, certain goals, certain situations and circumstances, and where it is that we are going to have the freedom to come up with a better alternative to put in the place of the things that, of course, are falling apart and that we have to essentially cut ties with. So it's definitely going to be an interesting day. Let me also just say that when the moon goes into the void immediately after the full moon peaks, we aren't going to see this moon energy shift into Aquarius until 1:22 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the 11th. And so again, a very weird ass long period of time that the moon is going to be void. And specifically moving into a void that quickly after the full moon peaks, we're definitely going to have some major breakthroughs, some major revelations take place. So there are 10 different aspects popping off here today. 9 of those aspects are going to be involving the moon. The moon in this Capricorn energy is going to make a beautiful interaction with Venus, the goddess of love, beauty, worth, pleasure, and money, who happens to be in Gemini energy. Now, typically speaking, Capricorn, Gemini energy, they have a hard time getting along, getting on the same page. Lucky for us, this is a beautiful interaction that at least is helping us to ground and anchor into this present moment while we debate. 2 very different paths and decisions and choice points with what would make our heart feel the happiest, what would make us feel the safest, the most secure that we could possibly feel in our everyday life. This is definitely going to illuminate where it is that certain relationship dynamics are providing us with the encouragement, with the support that we are definitely needing in this particular point of transition. And of course, illuminating who is not stepping up to the plate, so to speak, and what we need to do about it. The moon is then going to make a very uncomfortable interaction with Mercury. Mercury, of course, ruler of the mental plane. He's in Leo energy, the heart and soul of the zodiac. And this particular interaction is definitely illuminating where it is that our heart and our head not on the same page at all. Mostly because the moon, for the most part, in this Capricorn energy is still very much committed to doing the same old thing, trying to pursue the same old goals, trying to, again, rise to the occasion and honor the roles, the responsibilities, the obligations and commitments that the old version of self has made. Mercury, on the other hand, we're all up in the headspace, figuring out what it is that would make our heart, again, Leo energy, the happiest that we could be. We have some big ideas. We have some big truths that we need to speak specifically on where it is that we're feeling trapped, held back, restricted, limited, if you will, especially in our physical realm where it is that, again, we continue to show up and do the same old thing, honoring those roles, responsibilities, those obligations and commitments, although at one time it was filling up our cup, at this particular juncture, it is literally sucking the life force energy out of us. Again, just keep in the back of your mind that this full moon is supposed to be illuminating where it is that systems, structures, roles, responsibilities of the past aren't a vibratory match for this present moment, definitely not a vibratory match for who it is that we need to become in order to be a vibratory match with the kind of outcome, goal, vision, dream that we want to be manifesting. So if you find yourself in certain situations and circumstances where communication is a hot topic, there's definitely going to be some verbal vomit. There's definitely going to be some truce. There's definitely going to be some of those big ideas just kind of thrown out into the world, and we're not going to receive them well. So whether you're the one communicating these thoughts, these truths, these ideas out into the world, or you're the one on the receiving end, there's a miscommunication here. We are in a full moon. The full moon is trying to highlight, trying to illuminate all the information, all the details needed in order to make a decision, but things are just messy at this particular point in time. We have to expect that communication styles are messy as well. The moon in this Capricorn energy is going to trine, which is a beautiful interaction with Mars, the god of war, ruling over our physical energy, our drive, passion, desire, even our anger. We have Mars in Virgo energy trying to fix and heal and kind of repair all of the things. First, starting with ourselves. We're trying to be the better person. We're trying to be the better version of self. We are taking a good look at our physical realm. We are identifying the problematic areas that could use some adjustment, that could use some, let's call it new energy. And because this is a trine, it means that we are working with like-minded elements, which means this is earth on earth action. We are definitely aware of the present moment. We're definitely aware of our to-do list. We are definitely aware of what it is that we want to break free from. And we are definitely aware of what we would like to be moving closer to. Mars, because he does kind of have a pep in his step, he's ready to take action and make moves anytime that we've thought very carefully, very calculated, very strategically about the moves in which we need to make. Mars is kind of, boosting our spirit, so to speak. He's showing us where it is that we're motivated to make a change, where it is that we're determined to see a particular chapter, particular path through. We are definitely realizing where it is that action is needed in order to, again, further collapse and deconstruct the existing foundations and structures that the old version of self has built in order for us to clear that space out and start building a new realm, a new reality that is much more encouraging and supportive of where it is that we're at and where it is that we desire to be. The moon in Capricorn is then going to make a very uncomfortable interaction with Uranus, the Great Awakener, who, of course, is fresh in this Gemini energy. And so, again, typically speaking, Capricorn, Gemini energy, they have a hard time getting on the same page. And Uranus, who usually brings clarity because he's being aspected in not the greatest way, he's bringing confusion and he's bringing anxiety. And he's bringing a lot of pressure in the headspace, pressure to the central nervous system. We're feeling a little bit fried under this full moon in Capricorn, especially as we are building to the intensity that peak energy needs us to be at for a release to actually happen. And so we're not seeing things clearly. We are kind of creating more anxiety, more complications, more situations and circumstances that are messy than there actually needs to be, because the Gemini energy that Uranus is currently in, again, is weighing the pros and cons of making a pivot, making a different choice point, making a different path, a different direction, while emotionally speaking, we haven't been presented with the information, the details that would prove that a pivot point is absolutely necessary. So until that happens, we have to stay the course. 4:37 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the moon in Capricorn is going to sit across from the sun in Cancer. This is what gives us our full moon in Capricorn. This is the breakthrough point. This is where the intensity starts to dissipate. This is also the particular point where the moon is going to go void of course. We have a full moon Capricorn forecast for your listening pleasure if you want to do a deep dive in what this full moon is all about. And of course, there's the moon guide that you can follow along, not only the shadow work, but the manifesting potentialities for this particular lunar cycle as well. So I'm going to recommend that if you're interested in doing the work, that you dive into it, you lean into it, because this is definitely a marker, a very important marker for us to kind of decide what it is that we cannot continue doing, and mostly decide upon what it is that we need to be doing. Again, a huge amount of karmic responsibility is weighing on our shoulders right now, and this is the breaking point, the choice point that we are definitely going to feel pressurized under. So having that moon peak and then go void, of course, we're definitely going to feel all over the place. The moon, while in this void, is then going to make a beautiful interaction with Saturn. Saturn rules over this full moon in Capricorn, so we know that this is going to be a reality check of sorts. We have Mr. Saturn in this Aries energy, of course, helping us to rebuild, restructure this new identity, and eventually the realm and reality that this new identity needs to be living in. So emotionally speaking, we do get a little bit of a, let's call it reality check. It's not a harsh one. It's just coming out of the illumination, the realization of what it is that we can no longer do, no longer pour into. And from that, again, we're thinking about alternatives. What would we prefer to do instead? This is going to help us kind of organize our thoughts, organize our feelings, take a little bit more of a logical, practical approach on the to-do list of what we have to remove and eliminate before we can start adding and building towards something new. The moon in this void is then going to sextile, which is a beautiful interaction with the North Node in Pisces. We love this because when Capricorn and Pisces energy works very well together, whatever it is that we can imagine, we can bring it to life. And so that North Node in Pisces is trying to get us on the right path, trying to get us in alignment with what it is that we need to do next for our next soul contract, for our next mission, our next purpose, our next goal. And the big thing here is realizing where it is that we have to kind of release the rigidity, again, Capricorn energy, and lean into the flow of surrender, Pisces energy. I love this energy because it's opening us up to thinking about, imagining, if you will, different situations, circumstances, scenarios that we could see ourselves being very happy in. And although this is not an action point, although we're not committing to a particular goal, vision, and dream, it is very beneficial for us to have an open mind, an open heart, to just explore and experiment with the changes that we now feel we can make, that we have put into perspective of what it is that we need to release. Again, every single time that we detach, we release, we remove something, it creates a space for us to fill it up with something new, something more in resonance with where it is that we're currently at. The moon in this void is then going to make a beautiful interaction with Neptune. Neptune, of course, now retrograde in this Aries energy. This is also a beautiful interaction for us to, again, give ourselves a little bit of permission slip to move into La La Land, to really reflect upon how it is that we've gotten here, what it is that we've been doing to get here, what it is that we no longer want to do, moving on and moving forward. And again, Neptune is kind of renewing, refreshing, restoring our visual for the future. This is kind of pumping us up to kind of renew and restore the faith, the trust that we need to have, not only within ourselves, but within the greater, grander process of kind of letting situations and circumstances unfold organically and very naturally. We then have Venus, the goddess of love, beauty, worth, pleasure, money. She's in this Gemini energy, so there is a little bit of division between her heart and her head. There is a little bit of division between the choice points, the directions, the paths in which she wants to kind of walk and explore. Again, she's in a mutable air sign, which means that she is willing to kind of spice things up. She's willing to go out into the world and try new things, especially to kind of, follow her new curiosity. She's definitely trying to explore not only this new version of self, but what this new version of self needs in routines, in relationship dynamics, needs in resources. And so Venus is going to be making a beautiful interaction with Jupiter, the planet of growth, expansion, beliefs, abundance, and blessings. Of course, he is in Cancer energy, and he is really helping to show us where it is that we are kind of growing upon the emotional strength, the emotional foundation that we've been building within ourselves, creating an inner realm of safety, security, stability, and comfort so that when life gets crazy outside of us, we can retreat within us and know that we are exactly where it is that we need to be, know where it is that, again, we work very hard to break away from the old, where we're very content with what we're building here as far as the new. And just showing us where it is that, again, we have been taking some, pretty tough hits to the chin, so to speak, and where it is that we're better off for it. We are growing, we are evolving, not only in our inner realm, but in our outer realm eventually as well. So Venus interacting with Jupiter, there's going to be a huge magnification on our happiness, on our joy, on our contentment, especially where relationships are concerned. And because this is Gemini and Cancer energy, air and water, there's likely going to be a lot of thought, a lot of ideas, a lot of revelations, a lot of new aha moments that are definitely going to change the way that we feel about ourselves, about the people that we're sharing our lives with, about what it is that we're building and creating for ourselves. And so having this little growth spurt within us, revealing insights, details, information that's going to help us in the long term, definitely giving us a lot to think about, a lot to kind of process between our heart and our head. The last thing that we have going on here today is the moon in this void, making a very uncomfortable interaction with Venus. So just as Venus and Jupiter kind of showed us where it is that we are growing, we are evolving, where it is that we have the opportunity to kind of switch things up and do what needs to be done in order to provide ourselves with that safety, security, and stability, not only within ourselves, but within our physical realms as well. The moon, of course, floating in this void, very uncertain, very unstable. And in Capricorn energy, again, there is this tension because the Capricorn energy wants to stick to what it is that we've been doing, wants to stick what is tried, tested, and true. But Venus, being in Gemini energy, this mutable air sign, everything is on the table for review. Everything is up for exploration, for experimentation. Everything is on the table for us to figure out whether or not continue doing what it is that we've been doing is actually fulfilling our happiness, our joy, our heart space. Most of the time, especially under this full moon in Capricorn, the answer is going to be no. And when those answers of no come to you, that is the point in time where you realize what you have to let go of, what you have to release, what you have to remove in order to create the space to build something new.